In this chapter, it is just like a thought provoking story कि आपको ये story पढ़ने के बाद एक बार मन में कुछ विचार आते हैं, some thoughts are provoked in your mind, and this story highlights how a doctor's duty as a trained medical practitioner towards a patient makes him rise above the narrow nationalism and prejudices. कि एक डॉक्टर की ड्यूटी के बारे में हमें इसमें रियलाइज करवाया गया है कि हाउ अ डॉक्टर टेक्स इट्स ड्यूटी, कि अगर वो अपनी लाइफ में अपने प्रोफेशन को उभारना चाहता है, ग्रो करना चाहता है अपने उस प्रोफेशन में, तो वन हैज टू लुक एट हिज प्रोफेशन गिविंग द फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी. That person cannot ignore its profession. So what is told to us in this story, it is about the duty of a doctor, कि कैसे एक डॉक्टर जो है वो अपनी ड्यूटी को बहुत सिंसियरली अगर निभाता है तो उसकी लाइफ में कैसी कैसी प्रॉब्लम्स जो हैं वो आ सकती हैं. बिकॉज अ डॉक्टर is a person, is a human being also. He has a general life also, a simple routine life just like the human beings also, and the duty of a doctor also. So what we are told in this story, there is a doctor, Dr. Sado. He risks his honor, position, and life, as well as that of his wife and children, by sheltering a runaway prisoner. कि एक prisoner है जो कि भाग रहा होता है, अब दूसरे कंट्री से भाग कर आया हुआ है, जिस कंट्री के साथ की उनकी दुश्मनी है, तो उसको किस तरीके से वो अपनी लाइफ को रिस्क में डालकर, अपने ऑनर पोजीशन को लाइफ में रिस्क में डालकर और उसको बचाने की कोशिश करता है. And that prisoner is from the war of the enemy camp, and after saving his life, there is a conflict in his mind as a private individual and as a citizen. See, the struggle or the conflict in his mind is as a private individual, that means as a general human being, and as a citizen. मतलब एक डॉक्टर की उसकी ड्यूटी, प्रोफेशन उसका क्या कहता है, और उस कंट्री का सिटीजन होने के नाते उसकी क्या ड्यूटी बनती है, वेदर ही शुड सेव हिम और ही शुड लेट हिम डाई. So it was with a sense of national loyalty that this doctor works, and it is beautifully portrayed in this story. Let me give you the story in a nutshell because the chapter is very long and you may get bored somewhere in between. Otherwise, it is a very interesting story. But due to the length, sometimes we get bored. And in a nutshell, what the story tells us is, this story, The Enemy, written by Pearl S. Buck, deals with a situation in which human considerations overpower narrow considerations of national duty. एक ह्यूमन कॉन्सिडरेशंस हैं, एक ह्यूमन बीइंग होने के नाते हमें हमारी क्या ड्यूटी बनती है एक डॉक्टर की, और एक नेशनल सिटीजन होने के नाते उसकी क्या ड्यूटी बनती है. मतलब दोनों तरह की ड्यूटीज की कॉन्फ्लिक्ट के बीच में वो फंसा हुआ है कि उसको डॉक्टर की प्रोफेशनल ड्यूटी अपनी परफॉर्म करनी चाहिए, या एक अच्छा आइडियल सिटीजन होने के नाते एक एनिमी को शेल्टर नहीं देना चाहिए, उसका ट्रीटमेंट नहीं करना चाहिए. These type of conflicts are in his mind. In the time of the World War II, what happens? An American prisoner of war is washed ashore and comes to the doorstep of a Japanese doctor. American prisoner है जो कि समुद्र के बीच में, पानी के बीच में रेंगता हुआ आ रहा है, और वो इस जापानीज डॉक्टर, ये डॉक्टर सैडो जो हैं वो जापान में रहते हैं और जापानीज डॉक्टर हैं, जबकि जो प्रिजनर है वो अमेरिकन है, उसके दरवाजे तक आ जाता है कि उसका घर बिल्कुल समुद्र के किनारे पर था. द प्रिजनर बैडली वॉन्डेड इज इन ऑलमोस्ट अ डाइंग स्टेट. इतनी ज्यादा कंडीशन उसकी खराब होती है, वॉन्डेड सिचुएशन में होता है, जख्मी हालत में होता है, और ही वाज ऑलमोस्ट नियर डाइंग. Prompted by his professional duty, the doctor operates upon him, extracts a bullet from his body and saves his life because he was prompted by the duty of his profession एज ए डॉक्टर. उसकी ड्यूटी जो है उसकी कॉन्शियस क्या कहती है कि एज ए डॉक्टर ही मस्ट परफॉर्म हिज ड्यूटी. सो व्हाट ही डज, ही ऑपरेट्स ऑन दैट पर्सन. उसके बॉडी में से बुलेट, जो गोली उसको लगी होती है, उसको निकालता है और उसकी लाइफ सेव करता है. He knows that he is saving an enemy and that he can be condemned as a traitor. He knew this thing. उसको ये भी पता था कि वो एक दुश्मन को बचा रहा है, जो कि उस टाइम वॉर चल रही थी, तो अमेरिका और जापान जो थे, देवर ऑन द अपोजिट साइड्स. और जो अमेरिकन प्रिजनर था वो उसका एक दुश्मन है. लेकिन एक प्रोफेशनल ड्यूटी, डॉक्टर की प्रोफेशनल ड्यूटी के नाते वो उसको बचाता है. एंड ही न्यू दिस थिंग दैट ही वुड बी कंसिडर्ड एज ए ट्रेटर. ट्रेटर क्या होता है? देशद्रोही, कि अपने देश के साथ धोखा करने वाला आदमी. ट्रेटर उसको कंसिडर कर लिया जाएगा. एंड ही हिमसेल्फ फील्स नो पर्टिकुलर लाइकिंग फॉर द वाइट मैन, बट ही डज नॉट अलाउ हिमसेल्फ टू लेट द मैन डाई. चाहे कि उसको ये बात अच्छी नहीं लगती कि वो एक अमेरिकन को बचाए जो कि उसका दुश्मन है. लेकिन व्हाइट मैन किसको कहा गया यहाँ? अमेरिकन को, प्रिजनर को. बट इवन देन he tries to save that man and he does not allow him to die. He also does not hand him over to the police, कि एक दुश्मन के नाते वो उसको पुलिस को भी हैंड ओवर कर सकता था, लेकिन वो नहीं करता. He does his duty as a citizen by telling almost the man to the general, about the man to the general. When the general falls to send his promised assassins, he helps the white man to escape a nearby island in a boat. What happens कि जो उस एरिया का उनका जनरल होता है, जैसे हमारे पुलिस के हेड होते हैं डीजीपी वगैरह, ऐसे ही उनका जो हेड था उस एरिया का जनरल, वो उसको सारे बात बता देता है उस आदमी के बारे में कि उसने इस प्रिजनर को अपने घर में शेल्टर करा, उसके ऊपर ऑपरेट किया, उसका ऑपरेशन किया, उसको सेव करी उसकी लाइफ. लेकिन जो जनरल था वो भी उसके इस बात को छिपाने की कोशिश करता है, वो भी उसके अगेंस्ट कोई एक्शन नहीं लेता. उसमें उसका अपना पर्सनल रीजन था, क्योंकि जो जनरल था ही वाज आल्सो सफरिंग फ्रॉम सम हार्ट प्रॉब्लम एंड ही वाज टेकिंग ट्रीटमेंट फ्रॉम डॉक्टर सैडो. तो अगर उसको लग रहा था कि अगर उसको वो प्रिजन में डाल देता है एज ए ट्रेटर, उसको धोखेबाज कहकर कि एक एनिमी को शेल्टर देने के रीजन की वजह से वो उसको अगर पनिशमेंट देता है, तो उसका ट्रीटमेंट कौन करेगा? He was not having belief in any other doctor. किसी और डॉक्टर पे उसको विश्वास नहीं था, तो सिर्फ अपने पर्सनल रीजन की वजह से वो उसको कोई पनिशमेंट नहीं देता, लेकिन उसको प्रॉमिस करता है कि ही विल सेंड द असैसिन्स. असैसिन्स होते हैं जो उन्होंने अपने प्राइवेट अपने पास रखे होते हैं पर्सन्स, हेल्दी पर्सन्स रखे होते हैं बहुत हेफ्टी से, कि हट्टे कट्टे से आदमी रखे होते हैं उन्होंने, जो कि दूसरों को मार देते हैं, कत्ल कर देते हैं दूसरों का. तो उस टाइम पे इन लोगों ने अपनी सेफ्टी के लिए ऐसे लोग रखे होते थे. तो उसने कुछ अपने प्राइवेट असैसिन्स रखे हुए थे. वो डॉक्टर सैडो को क्या बताते हैं? दैट ही विल सेंड हिज असैसिन्स टू किल दैट मैन. और अपने आप ही वो आदमी जो है जब खत्म हो जाएगा, और ना तो डॉक्टर सैडो के ऊपर कोई ब्लेम आएगा और ना ही जनरल के ऊपर आएगा. लेकिन somehow he was not able to send the assassins, and then at the end again Dr. Sado helped that prisoner by giving him a boat and some material, some eatables, some other things, and in this way he helped him at the end also and sent him to a safer place. So in this way the story ends in a positive note, that the doctor saved his life. He provided him all type of material, whatever was needed, even at the end of his life, and even he told him the way to escape and reach to the safer place at the ending of the story. Though he tells everything to the general of that area, what the writer Pearl C. Buck tells, and how we are introduced with this character of Dr. Sado. Clear? Now look at the chapter. In the beginning part that is given to us before the story starts, the introduction about the situation is given. Says it is the time of the World War, and it was about the time of World War II. An American prisoner of war is washed ashore in a dying state and is found at the doorsteps of a Japanese doctor, as I have told you, that he came just washing away in the water of the sea to the doorsteps of the doctor. Should he save him as a doctor or hand him over to the army as a patriot? Now, the two questions are there in front of the doctor as well as all human beings. In such type of situation, what should be done? Whether a doctor should save his life or he should hand over him, considering himself as a patriot कि वो पूरा देश भगत है और अपने कंट्री के लिए उसकी पूरी ड्यूटी बनती है, और इस वजह से वो क्या करता है कि उसको आर्मी को या पुलिस वालों को सौंप दे. These were the two questions that came in his mind. Now, what he did in the story that you will come to know after reading, I have given you in the nutshell that he helps him in all ways. Now, look at the lines of the chapter. You have read one more chapter regarding the same theme, that was the duty of the doctor, in 11th class also. If you remember the chapter, The Birth, that also gives us about the duty of a doctor, that how the doctor was very much sincere about his duty. He forgot all about his personal matters and takes care of that lady who gives birth to a child and was in a critical situation. And that also tells us about the sincerity of the doctor's duty. The same theme is running in this story also. Look at the lines. Dr. Sado Koki's house was built on a spot of the Japanese coast where, as a little boy, he had often played. It is shown to us about his childhood, that in his childhood he used to play near the Japanese coast. समुंदर के किनारे पर वो बचपन में अपने खेला करता था जहाँ पर उसका घर था. The low square stone house was set upon rocks well above a narrow beach that was outlined with bent pines. और उनका जो घर था उसकी वॉल्स जो थी दैट वर वेरी लो, स्क्वेयर स्टोन से वो बना हुआ घर था, एंड इट वाज सेट अपॉन द रॉक्स, रॉक्स के बीच में घर वो सेट था, एंड अबव अ नैरो बीच दैट वाज आउटलाइंड विद बेंट पाइन्स, और उसके चारों तरफ एक आउटलाइनिंग बनी हुई थी पाइन ट्रीज की. एज ए बॉय सेडो हैड क्लाइम्ड द पाइन्स सपोर्टिंग हिमसेल्फ ऑन हिज बेयर फीट, कि अपने बेयर फीट के साथ नंगे पांवों में वो अपने बचपन में उन पेड़ों के ऊपर, उन पाइन ट्रीज के ऊपर चढ़ा करता था. as he had seen men do in the South Seas when they climbed for coconuts, because he used to see the people in that south area who used to climb on the trees for the coconuts, and looking at them he also started climbing on those pine trees. His father had taken him often to the islands of those seas, and never had he failed to say to the little brave boy at his side, those islands yonder, they are stepping stones to the future for Japan. Underline these lines, the statement given by his father that tells him from the very beginning that he is going to be a very brave and very great person in his life, because from the very beginning his father motivated him. Whenever he went along with his father to those islands of the seas, he never failed to say. That means his father never stopped him from all these things when he used to climb on the pine trees, that he was a little brave boy, and those little islands yonder, yonder means there, कि वहां पर जो islands थे, they are the stepping stones to the future for Japan. जापान के लिए ये stepping stones थे. That means if you are climbing on those trees, that means living in the Japan, you can also reach to the heights. Those were the stepping stones. That means beginning steps थे. छोटा बच्चा जैसे steps लेता है, ऐसे ही वो उसको क्या motivate किया करते थे, that he should keep on doing like this, and this will be helpful in his growth living in the Japan, and he would become some good person in his life. Where shall we step from them? Shadow had asked seriously, and many times he asked his father about climbing on those trees and reaching to the heights. Who knows? His father had answered. Who can limit our future? It depends on what we make it. Underline this statement. It is given in the form of a very provoking thought. बहुत अच्छा थॉट दिया गया है कि उसके फादर उसको हमेशा मोटिवेट करते थे, एनकरेज करते थे, और वो उसको क्या कहा करते थे, हु कैन लिमिट आवर फ्यूचर, कि हमारे फ्यूचर को कोई भी लिमिट नहीं कर सकता, कोई रोक नहीं सकता, हमारे फ्यूचर में हमें आगे बढ़ने से कोई भी रोक नहीं सकता, बिकॉज इट डिपेंड्स ऑल अपॉन अस। ये सिर्फ सब कहते हैं हमारे ऊपर ही डिपेंड करता है। इट डिपेंड्स ऑन वॉट वी मेक इट मीन्स हम अपने फ्यूचर को कैसा बनाना चाहते हैं, हम अपने फ्यूचर में क्या करना चाहते हैं, ये सब हमारे ऊपर डिपेंड करता है। इसलिए कोई भी हमें आगे बढ़ने से रोक नहीं सकता। एंड ही मोटिवेटेड हिज सन डॉक्टर सेडो इन हिज चाइल्डहुड टू do these type of adventurous and brave actions. Come to the next page. Sedo had taken this into his mind. As he did everything his father said, he never refused anything what his father said. He used to do all those things what his father used to tell him. His father, who never joked or played with him. Note down the nature of his father, because you might get the question on the character of his father also. Short question can be there, that his father was not of so very jolly type of nature, who never joked or played with him. वो कभी उसके साथ खेले नहीं थे, कभी उन्होंने कोई हंसी मजाक उसके साथ नहीं किया था. But who spent infinite pains upon him, who was his only son. But he used to take a lot of pains, lot of efforts and troubles, because he was the only son. कि उसको उसकी ग्रोथ के लिए, उसकी पढ़ाई के लिए, उसको आगे बढ़ने के लिए, या उसकी पर्सनैलिटी को और इम्प्रूव करने के लिए उसके फादर बहुत एफर्ट्स करते थे. Though he was not very jolly, he was not very friendly with him, but he takes a lot of pains, endless pains. Infinite means endless pains. Sedo knew that his education was his father's chief concern. Note down that his father was very much worried about his education. Chief concern of his father was his education only. For this reason, he had been sent at 22 to America to learn all that could be learned of surgery and medicine. Note down the age, at which age he was sent to America, at the age of 22. Note down these type of points, because you are going to have your questions in MCQs part also. Objective options के साथ आपको questions मिलने हैं, तो ऐसे ही questions उठाए जाएंगे, यहाँ पर options बन सकते हैं. So you must note down all these things and listen very carefully according to the MCQs or the option questions, that he was sent to America at the age of 22 by his father to learn whatever he could do in the field of surgery and medicine. He had come back at 30, and he came back at the age of 30. That means for 8 years he remained there in America, and before his father died, he had seen Sado become famous not only as a surgeon but as a scientist. Note down this point, that his father was happy that he was able to fulfill his ambition. What was his aim? Just to make him a good doctor. He not only became a good surgeon, but as a scientist also before his father died. So he became a very successful surgeon and scientist in front of his eyes. His father was very happy to see this, because this was his only aim, to make him a good person, because he was perfecting a discovery which would render wounds entirely clean. Note down what type of discovery he was doing as a scientist. He was trying to become perfect in making the discovery which would render wounds entirely clean. कि अगर जख्म है तो उनको, बॉडी के ऊपर कहीं जख्म हो जाते हैं तो उनको किस तरीके से पूरी तरह से क्लीन किया जा सकता है, कैसे साफ किया जा सकता है. He was trying to discover something on this topic as a scientist when his father died. And see the next point, that he had not been sent abroad with the troops. वॉर चल रही है, वर्ल्ड वॉर चल रही है, और आपको पता है कि जब आर्मी के लोग जाते हैं तो उनके साथ कुछ डॉक्टर्स भी भेजे जाते हैं, एंड डॉक्टर्स के उनकी हेल्प के लिए, उनके ट्रीटमेंट के लिए उनको साथ भेजा जाता है. लेकिन एक सक्सेसफुल डॉक्टर होने के बावजूद भी उसको ट्रूप्स के साथ, मीन्स आर्मी के साथ नहीं भेजा गया. देयर वर टू रीजंस. वन, he was perfecting on a discovery which would render wounds entirely clean, and second reason was also he knew there was some slight danger that the old general might need an operation for a condition for which he was now being treated medically, and for this possibility, Sado was being kept in Japan. Note down this point, that the general of that area of Japan was suffering from some problem, and due to that problem, he might need operation anytime. And for that operation, Dr. Sado was needed because he was taking treatment from Dr. Sado. So for this personal reason, the general did not allow Dr. Sado to go with the troops in the war. Note down these 2 points. In some of the books, only one point is written, and most of the time the students also forget to write the second point. And this question many times comes in the question paper, that why he was not sent with the troops. You have to mention both the reasons. One reason was that he was treating the general of Japan, who wanted to have treatment from Dr. Sado, and he did not allow Dr. Sado to go with the troops because he might need operation anytime. And the second reason was that he was working on a discovery which would render wounds entirely clean as a scientist. So for both these reasons, he was not sent with the troops. आर्मी के साथ उसको लड़ाई के साथ जो आर्मी के ट्रीटमेंट के लिए सोल्जर्स के ट्रीटमेंट के लिए उसको नहीं भेजा गया. He was kept back in Japan only. Though he was a good surgeon, he was a good scientist also. And note down here his own personal reason. जनरल का पर्सनल रीजन है इसमें, and becoming very you can say prejudiced here, that he was taking the service of that doctor for his own personal reason and did not allowing him to go with the army. We can see at the end of the chapter that this general is shown as a very always taking care of his personal reasons. So at the end, you can be asked this question. So note down the points which are coming in the chapter throughout, which tell us that he was not taking care of anyone. He was not worried about others. He was only worried about his own health. He was suffering from some heart problem. That's why he did not allow doctor to go with the army during the war.